And we have all the things here. You're free to try them, as I always say. For next time, I also bring, the crossbows, this weapon that the Franks actually used. I'll show you one that you can build from office supplies using pencils and rubber bands and stuff, how you build a crossbow. That's for the kids, inshallah. And just to compensate. Okay, that's great. If you can bring it next time, I'll be very happy, right? Please do. Okay. One other thing, just before I start, just for the kids here, like one other thing I found in my car, something I used to do as a kid, like how to build a dart, from like matches and right, and it actually does work, See, you guys can keep it, like if whoever who wants it. Over here, like this. Okay, so inshallah, like next time if we have time, I would like to do that because it's good for kids also, and like even young adults to get their hands busy with doing something, inshallah. Right. So inshallah, this time we're going to start, and today's episode, I think it's extremely important. It's very important. In my view, my humble view, it's one of the greatest victories of Salahuddin Ayubi. What we're going to see today and maybe next time is really where I think the character of Salahuddin, his determination, his views, his sometimes when you're winning and you're strong, it's very easy to have a strong stance. But when odds go against you, that's when people compromise. The Quran says, وَدُّوا لَوْ تُدْهِنْ فَيُدْهِنُونَ. They want you to compromise. They pressure you with techniques so that you compromise, and they'll compromise. But we will learn a lot about the stance of Salahuddin in a very difficult situation, which is what we're going to see today, inshallah. But before I go through today, just a reminder, and the way I'm going to start this, a reminder about last time, a lesson that I want to share with you quickly. There's some math in it, so don't be scared, right? You don't have to understand math. It's just for those of you who appreciate that. Then we'll go back to the line of events. So bear with me, inshallah. So the quick summary. We saw last time how Salahuddin came to power and the events that led to the Battle of Hattin. We saw this criminal, this crusader or not, if you remember. And we said he decided to do something that was unthinkable. He decided to attack the city of Medina, if you remember. We discussed this. And how Salahuddin and his forces was able to intercept him. But more importantly, it's because of this united Muslims more than ever. People were so outraged that something like that can happen. So when Salahuddin called for a general call for jihad, people responded. But the difference was there was a flag to fight under. Sometimes there is a legitimate cause and everybody wants to do something, but under what? Which way? Who? The difference that time, there was an establishment, a state, a person that was there, a whole organization that was present. So once the flag was up, people rallied from everywhere. And we said he had an army he never had before, more than, let's say, 30,000. And that's when he decided to have a major confrontation with the Franks. And if you remember the Battle of Hattin, and what we discussed it in details. But the line I want to remind you with, people that study strategy, they tell you, why did Salahuddin win in Hattin? What was it? Yes, he was very well prepared. His forces were very well trained. His supplies, his army, like everything was very well. I mean, he was really ready. But they tell you the main reason the Battle of Hattin was a game changer. The main reason the victory in that battle was decisive, because in that battle he confronted 60,000 of the Franks. It was all their forces. And if you remember, 30,000 died and 30,000 were what? Prisoners of war. So it was a major blow to the Franks. And the key I want you to remember, they say the following: the reason Salahuddin was able to achieve this victory, because he was able to make his enemy fight where he wants, when he wants, and how he wants. You remember that line? Remember the technique he did and how he lured them out into a place that's very dry and there is no water, and then surrounded them for 3 days. And that's why it was a major victory. He used the religious zealousy of the Templars and are not against them. This is what we discussed last time, right? And then we said, more importantly, when Salahuddin now destroyed the Franks, right, in the Battle of Hattin, and we discussed that in details, we said the next step was, like, people said, Jerusalem. You destroyed them, go get Jerusalem. Do you remember what Salahuddin did? He did not go for Jerusalem. Anybody remembers why? Exactly. He said, no, the heart says Jerusalem. This is very important to understand. As a Muslim, I mean, everybody would want the Aqsa Mosque. But strategy says that's not a good. The good strategy is what? I have to take all the coastal cities so I can isolate Jerusalem. And we said, and this is so important, and you'll see it today, because he knew what to expect. If I take the city of Jerusalem, what will happen in Europe? They will send another crusade, right? And when they send another crusade, if all those ports are like that, they will come and attack me directly. So I need to block the entry. I need to take all the portal cities first, isolate Jerusalem, then take it. And the second reason was what? Him knowing the hearts of people. He said, I know the Muslims. They've been fighting, right? If we go and take Jerusalem, look, the thing that kills Muslims the most is not hard times. It is not defeat. You know what it is? It's ease. It's luxury. It's when you get relaxed. يا أيها الذين آمنوا ما لكم إذا قيل لكم انفروا في سبيل الله إذ ثاقلتم إلى الأرض أرضيتم بالحياة الدنيا من الآخرة. That's what the Quran says. Oh, you believe? Why, when you're being called upon, there is a legitimate cause. Stand up. Hurry. Make a stance. Speak the truth. It's time. There is a cause, and it's legitimate. You find yourself weighed heavily to the ground. It's as if like I'm loaded. I know I want to get up, but I can't. And the Quran says, what's the problem? أرضيتم بالحياة الدنيا من الآخرة? Is it that you find satisfaction? And are you content with the current worldly life on the expense of the hereafter? Is it because Allah gave us ease and gave us good life and gave us things? I got so accustomed to it. So when time comes and I have to do something, I'm too afraid to lose. I'm weighed down. I have a good house, good husband, a good wife, good kids, good job. It's difficult. You get used to it. It's not easy to give it up. Right? So Salahuddin knew one thing. If he was to take the city of Jerusalem, most of the Muslims would be so elated, so happy. They will go start praying in the Aqsa Mosque. If he later tells them, okay, we have to continue, come with me, what will most of them say? Later, let us enjoy, naturally, right? So he delayed it. He said, first, let's open all the cities in the coast, then go for Jerusalem. That was his strategy. And we said that was successful, and I'm going to remind you with one thing, because you'll see that at play. We said all the cities fell to Salahuddin. And he was so generous. He used to release people, right? And all the people that he released, what did they do? As we said last time, they used to fight him again, right? But anyway, one city resisted, the city of Sur. An Italian knight by the name of Conrad came from Europe. They were about to surrender the city. And he told them, what are you speaking about? Still zealous. There is reinforcements will come from Europe. Fortify the city. Do not surrender to Salahuddin. And Sur is a very well fortified city. And the battle around Sur raged, and the city resisted, and the siege prolonged. And Salahuddin was insisting, I will not move to Jerusalem till I take Sur. And that's when a point of difference happened. All the commanders told him, winter is coming, people are tired. And, and his brother told him what? He used two things. Do you remember them? One was what? Your own health. I'm afraid that, you're getting exhausted, you're getting ill. If you die, this army, Muslims will going to we're going to lose. So please, in your lifetime, please capture this city. We'll deal with Sur later. And then the other argument, which was interesting, was what? And was used against later. People started telling him, well, the fiqhi perspective, as a soldier, I have 4 months, after which I have to go back to my wife, else she'll divorce me. So you have to make a call. We have to leave, right? So that's when he decided against, again, the heart said Jerusalem. His head was, that's a mistake. That's not the strategic decision. But it seems the best for now. So he went to Jerusalem with the idea that later we'll take the city of Sur, right? And we saw last time, the most important part that we discussed last time, what happened when he opened Jerusalem. Because remember in 1099 when they came, Muslims were inside the city. They were weak, and the Franks did what they did, killing 70,000, destroy terrible things as we discussed. Now the tables turned. And now Salahuddin is in power. And now he can kill all of them. And you saw last time the amount of rahmah and compassion that he showed to people. He won not only a military victory, he won the hearts of people. The way he opened Jerusalem, peace, everybody, the chivalry he showed towards women and children, the way he aided people, the way he really established, people really loved Salahuddin. Like the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam in Fath Makkah. The purpose is not to venge what they did against me. Those people in Mecca did terrible things to Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam. The purpose is not to venge and destroy and kill, although I'm angry, but it's about what? It's about moving forward. It's not about winning over my opponent. It's about winning my opponent over. وَمَا أَرْسَلْنَاكَ إِلَّا رَحْمَةً لِلْعَالَمِينَ. I break my opponent, correct, in the battle. Once that happens, خلاص. There is no point in extra killing and extra vengeance. Now you start to pardon. Very important. We pardon from a position of power. You don't tell somebody weak under the feet of another person, please forgive them. You see the point? Real afu is when I'm in a position of power. Then I pardon. And we saw how the magnanimity of Salahuddin on that day was. And we described it in great details, right? And then today we're going to continue the line of events, right? But before I do that, right, I just want to remind you with one thing. Do you remember this? This is just a little bit of tangent, and I'll go back to the line of event. Remember this game that I told you to play, remember? And there is a purpose. This was not in vain. I had something to share with you. So I asked you the following, if you remember. I asked everybody in this room, and I asked other Muslims too, right? Pick a number. The game is the following. Pick a number from 0 to 100, right? And then I'll gather all the numbers that everybody picked, right? And I'll take the average. And then I'll divide the average by 2, right? If the number you picked is close to that number, I was supposed to say you win $1,000, right? But I didn't say that, right? So what number would you pick? That was the game. Okay, go ahead and I gathered the data, right? Now, what does this have to do with what we're discussing? What are you trying to measure? Looks like nothing. This actually, I'm measuring something crucial in Muslims, something Salahuddin had, something Khalid ibn al-Walid had, something that's actually in the fiqh of our deen, that I see some of us are like or not in the Templars, zealous, sincere, eager, but they lack this thing. What is it? It's the following strategy, but it's whenever you have an opponent, you have to have the ability to put yourself in the minds and the shoes of your opponent. That is necessary in 2 things. For empathy, when somebody does something wrong and haram, before like judging, I have to what was he thinking? What was it from his side? This unlocks compassion from my heart. But if I have an enemy, if I make an action, chess, how do people play chess? You make this move and they're thinking, if I do this, he will do this. Then I will do this. And you set a trap, right? You predict your opponent. This game is about what? So let me say the following. First level, people will say, pick a number from 0 to 100. I'm a Muslim. I like 99 because the 99 names of Allah. 99, right? Somebody, well, the number 7. 7 heaven, 7 earth, 7, right? 33, right? I'm trying to pick a religious 1. Allah's 1, right? So that's a religious person who's, jazakumullah khair, you're sincere, right? But you didn't think. You thought some people will pick at random. 50, 60, 70, 80. No. And that's many of us. Choose a number, you choose a number. But what I'm looking for is the following. If I was to think like you, how would I think? I would say, wait a minute. If people pick random numbers, 30, 20, 70, 60, what is the average? 50. 50 divided by 2 is how much? 25. So if you guys pick random, the average will be 50. 50 by 2 is 25. I should pick 25. You get that? Now, why did I pick 25? Because I'm predicting you. Another person might be more clever. And he says, wait a minute. But other people are going to think like that too. Other people are going to pick 25. So the average might be 25. 25 by 2, it's 12 and a half, right? You get what I'm saying? An engineer, right? Unfortunately, right? Like myself, well, here can attest to this. And this is what I'm leading to. You say, no. I need a profile. Some people, maybe 50% will think randomly. 50% are going to average to 50. 50 other percent are going to choose this 12 and a half. What is the average between them? This is how I thought. 17 and a half. Between 12. That's what I should choose. Guess what was the winning number? 18. Right? Now, here is the more important, and this is again what I want to share with you. More importantly, the following happens. I got data, right? I got data from all of you. Guess what happens now? When I started, I was guessing. Now, wait, look at this. I have statistics. I have your profiles, right? And I have a profile for females, males by age group, right? So next time when I play this game with a Muslim group, I'm going to do what? How old are you? I know the profile, right? So I can predict your reaction very well now. I got the data. The more I play a game with you, and the more I collect data, the more I can what? Predict. That's, and I'm not going to go through the math, right? But I will highlight something I predicted that it's a very good find. Parents would love this, and kids, I had one prediction. Many young people, when you give them such a game, the first thing they'll do is what? They're not going to think. What do you guys do? No, you do something else. Anybody can Google, Chat GPT, right? Right? So guess what? This game was actually suggested by someone, right? In the 1990s. And if you Google it, you'll find it. But his game was, he will take the average, multiply by 2/3. So the answer was 33. I changed it. I made it half. Guess what? You go to 33 and there is a peak. Many people pick 33. And what age group picked that 33? What do you think? Do you guess what I'm saying? I know you're so fast to go to the internet and find the answer and you don't understand it well. And right? But see how I can even predict that? Right? So why is that important? This is called game theory, right? This is a science. Now, this science can be, and it's mathematical in nature. So we have a backup, alhamdulillah. Here. Type. So what I was saying, so this game theory people use for economics, but more importantly, in politics. Politics meaning what? I can predict war. I can predict what my enemy will do. Do you think people do that for Gaza? Do people do that for Hamas? What do you think? It's a science. And every time you play the game, they have coefficients. They're measuring, right? And it's called, if I do a move, if I kill 20,000, will they react? What is the number? How far can I go before they react? You see what I'm saying? Statistics. So if you go, and I just wanted to show you this, as a matter of fact, it's there, right? And as a matter of fact, there are many papers. This is a paper about it. And I want to show you the math involved, right? So you find tons of paper regarding this, right? Why am I saying this? For our young generation, this is a tool. We need to study this. If our enemies are using this, we need to know what they're using. They're trying to predict what we're going to do. We have to be unpredictable. We cannot fall into their trap. So when they act, they're predicting your reaction, right? So this is an area that I'm just bringing to the attention of young people, especially, aspiring for something. Please, this is something we need to include. It has to do with our deen, but this is outside the scope of here, right? It's the concept of ma'alat, the probabilistic outcome. So it's a fiqhi concept. But anyway, back to the line of event. I just wanted to show you guys this, Type. We said, as I said, Salahuddin, opened Jerusalem. And after he opened Jerusalem, the time was he has to go back and lay siege to the city of Sur, right? And he gathered his army and they went to the city of Sur and a siege started, right? And winter was coming and Conrad has actually used the time to fortify the city and he called the Egyptian fleet from Egypt. They started surrounding the city of Sur, right? but the city of Sur started resisting, and time dragged. And there was many battles that happened there, but at the end, people told him, Ya Salahuddin, winter is coming, we're tired, give us a break. We'll come, winter, inshallah, in springtime, we'll come and we'll take the city, no problems. And he was very concerned, because he was concerned they will go stronger. But everybody was, just give us a time, we need to relax, we've been fighting for so long. And Salahuddin decided to give his troops a break. Two things here happened. Salahuddin released his major army except for his personal regiment. Like the troops around Salahuddin. There was no break for them. In winter, Salahuddin started going into small forts in the area. And he would lay siege in winter while it's raining and there is, sometimes snow. And he continued through the winter to open a small city after a small city. He gave himself no break. But one situation that I found also very interesting, he was now very concerned about fortifying all the coastal cities. He was preparing. He knew they're coming. So he went specifically to the city of Akka. Right? Why Akka, by the way? Why that city in specific? Yeah. Exactly. I think he got, yeah. That's a good point. But the first point you said is correct. If Sur is there and they come to go to Jerusalem, what will be their first city to take? Akka. You see that? So that city he assigned Baha'u'ddin Qaraqosh, the one that built the citadel of Egypt, right? He's an excellent fortifier, an excellent builder. To personally be in the city, fortify it even more in preparation. And I want you to see how he's thinking. He's reading the enemy, right? Which is very important. I'm preparing. I know your move. I'm preparing for you. So when you come, I'm already ready. I'm not shocked. Oh, they came. What do I do? It's too late. I'll share with you this. Somebody who does not study and then comes and tells you, tomorrow is the exam. Tomorrow is the exam. Help me. What will you tell him? You cannot get an A. I'll try to help you. But everything we do tonight is what? A patch. Maybe you'll get a C. Right? Maybe you'll get a C. But here is the warning. If you get a C and you go back and sleep, the final will come and what will happen? We'll be in the same situation and maybe we'll get a C or fail. But if I help you and you get a C now and you wake up and you change and now you start studying and maybe in the final we'll get a B plus or an A. Right? But for now, he tells you, tell me how to get an A. The reason you cannot get an A now, you have been playing for 3 months. I can't, maybe a C. And we see Muslims nowadays, what we're begging for is what? Ceasefire, ceasefire, ceasefire. Look how weak we became. We're at their feet. Please, for God's sake, just cease fire. That's the C. You might get it, you might not get it. Where is the A? Why can't I get an A? You cannot get an A now. You're not prepared. But if I start changing now, maybe next time, it's the A. Right? You get the idea, right? So prediction is very important. Now, having said that, a very interesting situation happened in Akka that's reported by Ibn Shaddad. And I find it very interesting because it tells us a lot about Salahuddin Ayubi. He says in the city of Akka, right? He said, I was with the Sultan Salahuddin and he was on the walls of the city looking to the Mediterranean Sea. And Ibn Shaddad, he said, I wasn't familiar with the sea. So it's the first time I see the sea this way and it was winter. It's rough. The waves. And he said, now both of them are looking at the sea. And here is the interesting part. He says, Ibn Shaddad, a scholar, I looked at the sea. What was he thinking? Look at his mind. He said, I started thinking, I will take the opinion that the witness of a sailor should not be accepted in the court. What is he speaking about? The sea is so rough. Anybody that goes into this sea on a ship is not in his right mind. So when sailors go to the court and give us a testimony, if they go to that sea, I don't think we should accept that. You see how he's thinking, right? He said, I started to adopt that opinion. Now I understand why they said that and I became of that opinion, right? Because it's crazy. So that's what he's thinking. Now he said, while I'm thinking this, Salahuddin looking at the sea in silence, then all of a sudden looks to Ibn Shaddad and says the following statement. And I want you to see the heart of this man. He says, I find in my heart that when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala enables me to open all the coastal cities. I will leave governors on all the cities here. And I will personally take my fleet and go after the Franks to Europe till I finish them all off and liberate the whole Europe out of them. Look at this. What aspiration is this? See the himma? He's not stopping in Jerusalem. Look how high the aim. So Ibn Shaddad was shocked. And he said, Ya Mawlay, you must be so brave. And he said, why? He said, look at the sea. Like this is crazy. And then Salahuddin told him the following line. He said, Ana as'alak. I'm going to ask you a question. Ma ashraf al-mitat. What is the most honorable way to die? And he said, to die in the sake of Allah. Salahuddin said, and that is my goal. My utmost goal is to die doing something for the cause of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So that sea does not scare me. What is the lesson here? What is your aspiration? Sheikh Abdul Qadir used to say the following, Ma akhassul himam. How low is my aspiration? And what does he mean? My aspiration is to become a CEO, good. But what else? That's so worldly, so low. What do you hope? Do you hope to be the one liberating? How high is your aspiration? How far are you willing to go? How much energy do you have? Do you aspire? One day I'll memorize the whole Quran. I'll be praying half the night. I'll be the one. What is your aspiration? Why is our aspiration so low? Do you get it? And when you read the books of the people of that time, it addresses one issue. We're afraid to aspire high. You know why? Why don't we have a big dream? Don't aspire that one day you'll have $10 million and build a masjid, because probably it's not going to happen. And you'll be what? So disappointed and so frustrated. To avoid frustration and disappointment, lower your dream. What does Allah tell us? What does Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam say? إِنَّمَا الْأَعْمَالُ بِالنِّيَّاتِ. You know the hadith? If you intend to do something and you could not accomplish it, what happens? You get the reward of it. If you do it, it multiplies. So if you had an aspiration to build a masjid, why are you disappointed? You got the reward anyway. But we became afraid to dream. Look, our enemies, Shaitan, must never steal this from us. If my reality is bad, that must never limit my hopes and aspiration from what's something really big. Because I get rewarded anyway. How easy can it be? So I've deprived myself of a great reward simply because I was, no. So Salahuddin aspiration was so high. Sheikh Abdul Qadir's statement, and I'll go back to the line of event after that. He used to say the following, very powerful. غاية همة المؤمن العارف بربه باب قربه من الله عز وجل وأن يصل إليه بقلبه في الدنيا قبل الآخرة. The utmost aspiration of one that is longing for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, one that knows Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, is the door of nearness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and to reach Him with his heart in this life before the hereafter. I want the highest level. I'm aspiring for the nearness of Allah. I want to achieve everything. So this world, and this is what Salahuddin was, it's not about the crusaders. It's pleasing Allah. What pleases Him? He will not stop as long as and you will see that in his life. This aspiration, driven by the hereafter, driven by وَعَجِلْتُ إِلَيْكَ رَبِّي لِتَرْضَى. I hasten for you, my Lord. I want you to be happy. That's my aspiration. Nothing stops in my way. No frustration. I will continue no matter what. And that, you can see, was in the heart of Salahuddin. He has such a high aspiration, rahimahullah. طيب, let's go back to the line of events, right? And we said last time what Salahuddin predicted happened, right? And this is the episode of today. The news of the fall of Jerusalem reached Europe, and we said what happened? The Pope had a heart attack and died, literally, right? Because it was a devastation. And the new Pope issued what? A general call to all the European kings. A third crusade, the biggest crusade that has to launch right now to recover Jerusalem from the infidels. The kings of Europe responded. From them, from England, Richard, the Lionheart, Philippe Augustus of France, Barbarossa, Frederick Barbarossa of Germany, William II of Sicily, the 22 different nations. The whole Europe responded. And this was what? This is not a nation against a nation. This is now the whole Europe is going to come attack Salahuddin. Do you understand the magnitude we're speaking about? You instigated them. And interestingly enough, You can draw the parallel. The Franks in Jerusalem, they weren't that many. So when he got rid of them, his real enemy was where? Do you get that? So if you do something here, you have to prepare for what? Reinforcements that come from somewhere else, a superpower somewhere else. I don't need to say more, right? Type. So they sent a letter to Salahuddin threatening him. And they told him the following: you return back what you take in all those cities and Jerusalem. But that's what we want. We want to coexist. To return back those cities, two-state solution. Right? You have yours, we have ours. Return those cities to us, else we're going to come. And the threat was the following: if we come, it's not going to become Jerusalem. We'll take every single thing from your hand. Which means what? Egypt, Jordan, Syria, Iraq, it's Europe. So the threat is not if you make us come, we're not going to stop in Jerusalem. We're going to take everything. We're going to wipe. I mean, we're so many, right? The army of Germany alone is 200,000. Right? Just to let you know how much. And the dedication they showed, they all swore they will not remove their armor. They all swore anybody that makes even a minor sin, death penalty, because they believe they get defeated because of their sins, right? Highly dedicated people. And Germans are strong, right? So, and now reinforcements are going to be on the way to Salahuddin. And what was his response? His response to them: any one of you that is going to set foot on this land is going to meet the fate of his brothers in Hittin. No compromise whatsoever, not even afraid. But he realized what that meant. And surely enough, what Salahuddin predicted actually did happen, right? Remember we said he released the king Guy, and he released, the master of the Templars, and he released many people. They all gathered in the city of Sur. And now the knowledge came to them, reinforcements are coming. What did they decide to do? They gathered their forces and started doing what? Those people that swore never to fight against Salahuddin again, violated and gathered their forces and started heading, as he predicted, towards the city of Akka. And the news reached Salahuddin. The Franks are on the move, they're swarming, there is actually so many of them, and they are going to the city of Akka. And Salahuddin orders his forces, gather, we cannot wait. We cannot let them take the city of Akka. We have to go relieve, right? And he ordered his forces. By the time they march to the city of Akka, they find the following situation. The city has been already surrounded. And the numbers seem to be so high. You're speaking, they were 50,000, 60,000, 70,000. They're swarming, right? So many of them. Reinforcements started to also arrive, right? And the army of Salahuddin gathered around the forces. And Salahuddin's order, and this is also very interesting, and I want you to see what it tells about him. He says, we're going to start the attack on a Friday. When? Noontime. Why? This is one, but there is a second reason, a spiritual reason. Friday prayers, Jum'ah, and he sent throughout his kingdom. Every single khatib. In Jum'ah, when you stand up, you make dua, because in this moment, we are going to be fighting. Your dua is the one I'll win with. So he sent to everyone, including the haram. Can you imagine? When you are praying, that's when I'm going to start attacking. So all Muslims everywhere, if you cannot come, join through your dua. Never underestimate the power of dua. Because the likes of Salahuddin didn't. Right? He actually scheduled his attack on that day. And Friday day comes. And he starts the attack. And the Salahuddin forces started attacking. And it said the whole day, a terrible battle happens. But by the end of the day, they could not dislodge the Franks. Lots of killings on both sides. A terrible battle. But they were really steadfast. And the city was still surrounded. Saturday came. And the same thing after Fajr Salah. But this time, something different happened. His nephew, Taqiyuddin, this wonderful knight, this strong knight, right? Gathered some of his forces and changed tactics. Instead of attacking everywhere, this is a very common technique. You focus your attack on one point. And he focused his main attack by the beach. And his purpose was what? He could not dislodge the whole thing, but he made a breakthrough. He broke a part of the siege and made a way to the city, right? And it is said in that battle, it was a victory. They killed so many of the Franks, right? And they were saying the following, when tomorrow comes, we're tired. Next day, we'll fight. We'll try to finish them off. But something alarming started to happen. and this is narrated by so many scholars. They would say, we wake up next day and we look to the soldiers in front of us, and it looks like they're different soldiers. What's going on here? They see even the costumes are different. Reinforcements were starting to arrive daily. And Al-Imad al-Asfahani says, as you'll see one of his letters, he says, we realized that our arrows will finish faster than their reinforcements. You kill 5,000, next day they have 10,000. You kill 7,000, next day they have 20,000, right? So they're starting to see what happened. The army actually increased, right? So a pattern started every day. Fajr Salah, the Muslims pray and an attack happens, right? And the Franks defend till nighttime. And this kept going on and on and on, and the battle dragged. It reached now 1 week. 1 week of day and night. Day they fight, they rest by night. Day they fight, they rest by night. But on next week, something happened. The Franks, remember what we said, game theory, predicted. Now we see the pattern. We see what Muslims do, what is the pattern? Morning, they attack, right? We defend, and then what? They leave. So tomorrow, what are they going to do? So when do they attack? Fajr time. So what should we do? Attack them at Fajr time when they're praying. When they're not, they got used to the pattern, We're going to do something out of the box. And that's what happened, right? So the Franks decide to actually attack the positions of Taqiyuddin. At Fajr Salah, before he attacks, he's not prepared, and they launched a major attack. Their knights left and charged towards the position. They weren't ready, and they crushed the front lines, and they started pushing the Muslims back. And Taqiyuddin was not ready for this. He could not, hold the attack. So he started retreating, going back, right? And the Franks started chasing the positions of Taqiyuddin. Salahuddin in the middle, right? Realized what's going on. So he got his best troops, his personal regiment, right? The elites, and ordered them, go at once to help Taqiyuddin to push them back. So Salahuddin ordered his main troops to go to the aid of Taqiyuddin. When that happened, he was left with more of the volunteers. And the Franks realized this. They saw that the Muslim army now went where? Here, and that the flag of Salahuddin is not well defended. So they gathered their forces, and the knights of the Franks charged the position of Salahuddin himself. And those volunteers, they're not the regular troops of Salahuddin, they're not well trained. They could not withstand the knights, the knights charge. We spoke about this, right? It's really, they were strong. The Franks were strong people, there's no question about it. And then they started getting defeated and retreating. The Franks reached the tent of Salahuddin himself. And some of the scholars with Salahuddin actually got killed in that battle. And Ibn Shaddad narrates, I was in there and I saw Salahuddin myself ordering the drummers to sound the drummers, and commanding people to come back. And he's steadfast, right? And he's trying to hold his positions, but everybody is being pulled, pushed back by the Franks, right? And it looked like it's going to be a defeat. And what happened at that point, by the grace of Allah? Something completely unexpected. Two things happened. And this is, subhanAllah, the men of Salahuddin inside the city. They saw what's happened. So they ordered the gates to be opened. They're 3,000 only. And they charged towards the Frank from the back. Unexpected, right? And they charged specifically the position of Taqiyuddin to help him out. So they surprised the Franks that they're coming from their behind. They completely destroyed the ones that were, attacking Taqiyuddin. Once that happened, Taqiyuddin gathered his forces, and something very interesting happened. You see this gap? The Franks now are so far, the knights are separated from the infantry because they charged, right? So Taqiyuddin and Saifuddin, which is another leader, closed the gaps from the top and the bottom, right? So they surrounded the Franks, right? And this was a major battle, because then the people that were surrounded, it's fight for your life. And the battle raged the entire day. And by the grace of Allah, the tables turned. The Franks suffered major defeat in the center. It's said more than 10,000 died in this battle, right? And this was a major victory for the army of Salahuddin. Tables turned around by this careful maneuver, and Allah spared the Muslims actually a defeat. And the Franks really suffered heavy casualties in that battle. They decided after that, we're not attacking. We're going to go back to defense. But something unexpected now started to happen. So many dead people. Right? This is now getting to summertime. It's hot. 10,000 dead. Corpse everywhere. What do you think happens now? Epidemic started spreading. And the epidemic started spreading more in the Franks than the Muslims. Why? You guys remember? Hygiene. We said like the army of Salahuddin had mobile bathrooms, you know. You have to pray, you have to have ghusl. So because of good hygiene, it was there. Actually, Al-Faqih Isa al-Hikari, that night, the right hand of Salahuddin Ayubi got sick. And actually he passed away in that because of that disease. That's when Salahuddin lost Al-Faqih Isa al-Hikari. He passed away here, right? But more importantly, Salahuddin got sick himself. And now people were really worried. That's the Sultan, right? And he refused to move. I am not moving, right? And they gathered everybody, and the doctor came, right? And the doctor told him, my advice to you, this is a place of an epidemic. It's going to get to your army too. You need to move them away from this into a place. There was a hill nearby. Take the army up in that hill till this epidemic pass, because it's not going to differentiate between a Frank and a Muslim. All of you are going to, like, it's dangerous. And you already lost some of your commanders. And Salahuddin was, no. And here was the argument. He said, they told him, listen, the Franks suffered majorly. Lots of them died. The only reason they're staying around the city of Akka is because you're surrounding them. You're not giving them an opportunity to go anywhere. You see the point? If you go back, we predict what? They've suffered, so it is so miserable. The casualties and the disease and their situation is so bad. Once they see an escape, they will leave. Give them the opportunity to leave. Allah will spare us, right? Just open a gate for them. Salahuddin's opinion was like, no, you don't know those people. If we give them an opportunity, they're not going to leave. They're going to fortify their positions. Meaning what? I know their determination. But if everybody, the consensus was, you have to leave. So Salahuddin takes the shura and agrees with all the commanders and the doctor, right? You know the doctor of Salahuddin, by the way? Anybody? This is also interesting fact, right? Who was the doctor of Salahuddin? A very well-known man, a very well-known person. He's not a Muslim. He's a Jew. Yeah? Maimonides. Yusuf ibn Mahran, right? Maimonides is one of the most famous Jewish theologians up till today. He thrived under the Muslims. He was the doctor of Salahuddin. This idea that we're anti-Semitic and it's just ridiculous. Literally ridiculous. Right? Wallahi, it's just a joke. By all means, right? But anyway, the opinion was you have to leave. And Salahuddin leaves his position. And Ibn Shaddad narrates that he was really sick. Sometimes he would be in bed, you know, and again, all, rashes. And he said he couldn't even sit straight, and he's in pain, and it's hot. And he sends, the troops to attack daily, and he's really worried. The situation was bad, right? You can tell. In that situation, something happened that I found so interesting, right? Because again, those situations shows you something that is very deep about Salahuddin. In this situation, things aren't looking good. And he's very stressed. What will happen to Akka, right? You understand the tension he's in, right? Real tension. And when you're sick in that day and you're not at home, you're in a camp, in a tent, hot, right? It's not an easy thing, right? And then he orders somebody, can you bring me some water, please? And this servant of his goes quickly, gets some water to Salahuddin. And it is said he got really hot water, right? And then he enters, he trips, and he spills the water on Salahuddin. It's hot water. And it said the Sultan, it was terrible, very painful. And everybody said, this is it. This guy, Salahuddin, is going to you do that to the Sultan back in the day, you lose your head, right? And the guy was scared, right? So Salahuddin looked up to him and said the following. He smiled and he told him, can you make it colder, please? Right? Why am I sharing this? Look at the peace this man is in, right? And the man goes very happy. And he said he brought ice cold water, right? Very cold. And guess what happened? He comes in, he trips, and he spills it on the Sultan. And it is said Salahuddin almost died. Hot water, cold water, right? And people said, come on, man, once, okay, now, two. This guy is dead, right? And he was almost shivering. He deserves it. So Salahuddin looked up to him. He smiled and he told him the following. If you want to kill me, let me know And do it quickly, please. Now, what do we learn from this? Because this is actually a lesson in what we call chivalry. The first level of chivalry, Muslim chivalry, Madarij al-Salikin. This is a station to Allah. Chivalry is to use the best manners with the creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Scholars taught that. You know, best manners. And they tell you the first level, level 1, before you start. ترك الخصومة والتغافل عن الزلة ونسيان الأذية. تغافل عن الزلة. You overlook the mistakes of others. What other people need from you before your generosity and your help is what? Can you accommodate their slips? When they make a mistake, can you elevate the need to apologize from their heart? And Salahuddin used what? He used humor, which is very beautiful. He used humor to relieve that person. And that tells you a lot about the character of this man. They said, كان حليما لا يغضب. Very hard to find Salahuddin angry. And people who do things left and right. And this man is, calm. He has resolve. He knows what he's doing. But he does not say a single foul word. He does not do something. He doesn't hit. No. Very well controlled, very calm. Magnanimity, right? Very patient person. That was his character, right? In any case, he gathers the people and he tells them what I predicted happened. What the Franks did. What do you think happened when he went there? Right? So they actually started fortifying their position. So what they did, they started digging trenches, one towards the city, one towards Salahuddin, and in the middle. And the sand they got out, they made a hill out of it, right, as a protection. So now they're very well fortified, and the reinforcements are arriving daily, and their number is starting to swell, right? And this was really very disturbing for Salahuddin. So he gathered the people, and he said, I'm going to ask my brother, who's in Egypt, in Malik al-Adil, to get the Egyptian army that he has been developing for 10 years now, right? All the army of Egypt, I'm going to bring them. And this is all what I have. And we have to uproot the enemy. Because if they take Akka, it's not the end. It's going to be like a series of chains. We have to stop them here when we can. It's our duty to do that. And he asks his brother to get the Egyptian fleet and the Egyptian army to join the battle, right? And this is again shows the fortification around the city, right? And again, reinforcements was coming daily. Now, the Egyptian troops arrive, right, under al-Malik al-Adil. And as they're laying their camp and everything, something again out of the ordinary happened. The Franks, which were been dormant, defensive, decided to attack the Egyptian army. And again, they came out from their trenches and charged the position of al-Malik al-Adil, Salahuddin's brother, right? And again, they weren't prepared. They just arrived, right? And the troops started to fall back. And they started pushing further and further into the Egyptian armies, And Salahuddin brothers did a very interesting, again, strategic point. He said, I know something. Retreat. They have, again, the armies of that time with Salahuddin, it's a whole city, right? We said bathrooms, and they even have a judge, and they had a marketplace. Suq al-Askar. You want to go buy something and sell, and, it's behind. So he said, I want you to retreat, leave the merchandise as is. Why? I know what the Franks will do. Once they'll enter, it's a souk, right? It's like a mall, right? And once they see the merchandise we have, I know what they're going to do. They're going to start piling. That's when we're going to attack. And they retreated, and they did exactly that. And as predicted, see again, the enemy, if they act the way you want them to act, you defeat them. The Franks went surprised. This is a beautiful marketplace and merchandise everywhere. Everybody grabs something, and they become like carrying stuff and taking it back. At that point, al-Malik al-Adil, he orders everybody now attack. And at the same point, something happened in the camp of Salahuddin. Ibn Shaddad describes it. He said Salahuddin sick, sitting, in pain, and the call came that, the army is under attack. Said Salahuddin jumped up as if he's healthy, ran, jumped on his horse. And Ibn Shaddad said, I was shocked because the man couldn't sit before that. You were in pain. What happened, right? And Salahuddin said a statement. He said, نعم إذا ركبت الجهاد زال الألم حتى أعود. Whenever I respond to the call of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to fight, I find no pain in my body. I don't know what, the pain is gone. till I come back. And he took his army and he charged. And a major battle that's called al-Waqa al-Adiliyya happened. And again, by the grace of Allah, the tables turned around. And the Franks suffered a major defeat in that battle. It's called al-Waqa al-Adiliyya, right? But the disturbing thing now, news started coming. The kings of Europe are arriving. So the vanguard of the French king arrived. The vanguard, like 10,000 troops. This is just the introduction, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, right? And they came and they said the king himself, Philip Augustus, was coming. News came. Who? Richard the Lionheart is about to land with all the troops of England. The other news, the German king, Frederick Barbarossa. He's not coming by sea, he's coming by land, and he landed in Asia Minor and he's on his way. And now the Muslims are really disturbed. It has been months. We could not dislodge them. Their number is increasing on every single day. You get the idea? And there where people started saying, well, maybe we should negotiate, you have second thoughts, right? Now, Salahuddin's order was, okay, what are we going to do with the Germans, right? Remember, the Germans are coming from land. And the commanders told him, we cannot fight on two fronts. Those are 200,000. So you choose. Either we defend Akka or we leave Akka and we go fight them. And Salahuddin gives the order. No, he commands Taqiyuddin, his nephew, take some of the troops, half of them. Go, try to get as many people as you can, and go stop the 200,000 from invading. And we will stay around the city of Akka, which is almost an impossible encounter, right? And people were really scared because what? And even Ibn al-Athir says the prediction was the entire Sham is going to fall. Because there's so many, and Salahuddin is, what can you do? And nobody else is helping, by the way. And so people were really, said the news were, they're going to take Sham. That's it, we're done. Nobody can stop them. And the interesting part here, right, and this is again, those are some letters, I just leave them for you to read. And it's very interesting. Many scholars wrote this. Ibn Shaddad said, one time I was in the port and I saw 70 ships come. 70 ships coming to the Franks. And he said, I became very worried, anxious. What will happen? And he said, every time I look to the face of the Sultan, with every single ship that lands, he is not moved. I see from the determination, from the peace, from steadfastness, from resolution, that which would increase my own yaqeen, my certitude. My reliance on Allah would increase by just looking on his face and how he's not moved by their numbers. In the letters of Salahuddin that he sent to Al-Qadi al-Fadil, we have those letters. He tells Al-Qadi al-Fadil, I'm not afraid from the numbers. I'm afraid from our own sins. That is what will make us get defeated. But their numbers does not scare me. Right? So Salahuddin showed a great deal of what? Certitude. To the extent that his own scholars were actually, they said it, we were anxious when we saw their numbers, right? And now the news came, the Germans are coming close and Taqiyuddin is out to meet them. Interesting thing, right, that happened here. Oh, first, Salahuddin sends letters. He sends letters to who? To the Khalifa. He basically to all Muslims, to the Seljuks, to the Khalifa, right, in Iraq, Baghdad, right? And he sent a letter to Morocco. And his letter was the following. This is not about Salahuddin versus the Franks. This is kufr against Islam. And he says the following. Al-kufr a'an al-kufr. Ala yu'in al-Islam al-Islam. Look at them. All of them came to the aid of each other. This is Europe. We have to unite. He told the Khalifa the following. I know he doesn't have many troops. He said, come yourself. The kings are coming. If you were to come, you are a symbol. That will, so many people, the Khalifa himself is here. That will unite people. Seeing you in the battlefield and I will give you everything. Come yourself. The response of the Khalifa to Salahuddin was actually very interesting, right? The response was, actually the letter is very interesting, is he started bashing Salahuddin, telling him, how do you call yourself Al-Nasir Salahuddin? You know the word Al-Nasir. That was it. I am Al-Nasir, it's his title. Who you think you are? And everything you did was with my help and my soldiers. And Salahuddin said, his help and his soldiers, where are they? Yet Salahuddin continued to speak with high regards to the Khalifa. Why do you think that's the case? Unity. Unity. And wallahi, you read the letters of Salahuddin to the Khalifa, it's amazing. The way he speaks, your servant, your abd, your slave, today Allah aided with your grace and your help, Allah aided your servant with a victory, and I'm giving you the news. And he treats him as if he's not doing everything. Right? Very humble in the way he treated the Khalifa, though he didn't need this. Right? The point is, Salahuddin did not get any help from anybody. He was left alone. Right? The people that praise and when it was time, he was left alone to handle this impossible encounter. This is a letter from Salahuddin to the Muslim Ummah. And it's very powerful. I want you to read it because it's actually, you can read it as a letter from Salahuddin to us today. Right? And the reason I want you to read it, I want you to notice something about the letter that is extremely powerful. Look, notice how he starts. He starts again praising Allah. We hope in Allah the Most High, and he praises Allah. And then he says what? Where is the sense of honor of Muslims, the pride of believers, the zeal of the faithful? Now notice what he's going to say. We shall never cease to be amazed at how the disbelievers for their part have shown trusts. And the Muslims are the one who's lacking in zeal. Not one of them has responded to the call. Not one of them intervenes to straighten what is wrong. But notice what he's going to say. But observe how far the Franks have gone, what unity they have achieved, what aims they pursue, what help they have given, what sums of money they've borrowed and spent, how much wealth. There is not a king left in their lands, not a noble person, except he came himself to, and all this out of zealousy for their faith and what they claim to be true. The Muslims, on the other hand, they are lacking in zeal. What do you notice here? Any victim mentality? Did he say, look at how terrible they are, look how they kill people, poor people? Did he say that? Did he blame the Franks? Show me one letter here that he says, what terrible people they are, they're murderers, they're treacherous. We know. It's like telling you, Shaitan is deceiving, Shaitan is bad. Yeah, and what do you expect, right? Do you see any bashing? He actually praised something in them. He's their enemy, but he's saying what? Look at their courage, look at their aim, look at their determination. The problem is not them, it's not their strength, it is not their numbers. If anything, they're doing their job. The real problem is us. Where are we? He's not blaming them. This, we call it inner locus of control and responsibility. I'm not, oh, look at them, he's this, he's that, this nation. The problem is not them, the problem is us. Right? And then at the end of the letter, of course, he's very hopeful, right? He tells people it's time to cast away all the laziness and summon from far and near all those men who have blood in their veins, right? And he says, I'm confident, walhamdulillah, at the aid that will come from Allah. And by the grace of Allah, the believers will attain success and they will defeat all those mushrikeen. Right? So that shows you a lot of Salahuddin's, certitude. Now, the interesting part is what happened next, right? Good news and bad news, right? Good news. News came to Salahuddin. Frederick Barbarossa, the emperor, German emperor, right? On the way, he sees a river. He decides to go take a bath. He starts swimming in the river, he drowns. More interestingly, he said when he drowned, people around him differed. And they started quarreling and they started fighting, and 90% of the campaign decided to go back to Germany. What was that? Whose help is that? Do you get it? You see the test? It was a test. But when we do our part and we say that's the maximum, Allah's help comes. In tansurullah yansurkum wa yuthabbit aqdamakum. And Ibn al-Athir says this was by the grace of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah spared the Muslim. This terrible campaign ended in a highly unlikely way. Those are very determined people. Just went back. Only 5,000 of them reached Akka. From this 200,000, do you imagine the number? It's like all of them went back, right? Now, the bad news, Salahuddin gathers everybody to his tent and he starts crying. What happened? He opens a book. The news were, Taqiyuddin, your nephew, this night, he died in his sleep. He's young. He died natural death. And Salahuddin loved him. That was his nephew, right? Remember the relation between Salahuddin and Asad-ud-Din? Asad, his uncle, how he took him under his wing, and right? Salahuddin was doing the same thing. And Taqi-ud-Din was so powerful that Salahuddin said if he was there, things would be different. That was one of the most strongest leaders of Salahuddin. So Al-Faqih Isa al-Hikari died in the epidemic. Now Taqi-ud-Din and Salahuddin started crying. Ibn Shaddad tells him, you don't have time for grief. Grief is natural. He says, for you have to think of Muslims. There is no time for this. And Salahuddin seeks forgiveness from Allah and says, okay, bring me water. He washes his face and he starts focusing on the fate of the city of Haqq. At this point, again, we have detailed accounts. By the way, this battle of Akka is between 2 and 3 years long. I just want to imagine. And it's daily battles. So, and again, it frustrated the Franks because you could not take one city for how long? I mean, you understand, only 3,000 inside, right? And it's such and the fortification of the city was so well done that it took that long. It's like, and the Franks are getting frustrated. And Richard now is there. And there are many, and we have detailed accounts on different, I'll tell you just one or two. The 3 towers. They built 3 towers, 5 stories high, right? Filled them with men. And they pushed the towers all the way towards, the wall. And as much as Salahuddin tried to throw fire at them, they covered them with vinegar and stuff. They didn't burn. And people were worried if those towers reach the city wall, we're done, right? It was one young man came and said, I can destroy the 3 towers. And said, who are you? The engineering brigades of Salahuddin could not do anything. He said, no. He's an interesting young guy who loved chemistry. And he used to play with combustible materials, right, before that. And he says, I know a solution, but allow me to do it. And they said, let him try. And then he gives them an order. Prepare this type of liquid, this and this and this, and put that on this. And then he tells them, okay, now throw this liquid on the towers. And it was transparent. It looks like water. And the Muslims started throwing it. And the Franks thought they're throwing water at us. So they started mocking and laughing. And then he told them, now throw fire at this. And he said once the fire came, it exploded. To the extent the Franks in the neighboring towers, knowing they started jumping off. Right? We have detailed, about operations that happened. One of them that I find so descriptive of the situation. When the Franks finally started going close to the city towards the trenches. So they needed to bury the trench. So they got the corpses of horses and dead bodies and they throw it to build a bridge. So the garrison inside the city realized what's going on. So they had to open the gate. A part of them would go hold the Franks. The other part, in summer, they would jump in the trench, start cutting the bodies and throwing it out. Do you have a vision of how the difficulties those people suffered? Right? And day in, day out. And this never ending, right? And now the leaders of Salahuddin are telling him the city is surrounded. The fleet, the Frankish fleet is completely around the city. The city could not be resupplied for months. They're running out of supplies. Now Richard came, and Richard was really a good warrior, right? And he developed a very interesting strategy. And I'm going quickly here, right? I'm skipping some of the operations, right? I'll say this laterally. He decided to build, I was supposed to show it to you today, a trebuchet, right? A trebuchet is not a catapult, right? A trebuchet is something, it's rumored that it started in China. The Muslims got it, right? And the Franks adopted it. But what happened, the Franks would build it. It's it's a counterweight machine. You have a heavy weight and this pole, right? And you see the sling. And you put the sling down and you pull it down. And when the weight falls, the arm moves up and the slings. So it's like a double pendulum action. I'll show it to you next time. It's very powerful. The Muslim used to build many small ones, 40, 50, 30. Richard did something different. He built 2. 5 stories high. So it doesn't throw a stone. It throws a stone, right? I've seen a video, some modern guy built one of those and he threw a Volkswagen car. Literally, I've seen that. This is, you build basically, he spent months, 3 months doing what? Building one trebuchet. And he had 2 of those. And then they started firing. And now it's a stone. And the wall started breaking. And the people inside, Baha'uddin, they realized, they told Salahuddin, we can't do anything. We're out of supplies. The walls are breaking. We're defending the breach, but we're exhausted. We don't have any supplies. What can we do? We need to negotiate a surrender. And Salahuddin was furious. There is nothing, no talks about a surrender of the city of Akka. We will defend the city to death. You do never surrender the city to them. Help will come. I will break the siege. All the commanders of Salahuddin looked at him as like, we've been trying for 2 to 3 years. It's not doable. And now their supplies are coming more. And Richard is here with England and France, and they're going to take the city, right? And he refused. And he insisted no talk at all about surrendering the city. And tomorrow, by the grace of Allah, we're going to we're going to attack them again, attempt to relieve the city. Many of his operations, he did many crazy things by sea with the ships, and we have so many details. I'm skipping right now. But in any case, the situation was so hopeless. Next day, as they're speaking and getting ready, they see the Frankish flags go up the city of Akka. What happened? The garrison decided to seek a negotiation with Richard. And they told him the following: you're going to take the city, we're exhausted, the walls are breached, right? We see it. So we were nice to you before. Remember Jerusalem? And if we surrender the city to you, would you allow us to go out free? And he agrees. Of course, 2-3 years, you can't take one city. You're tired. Give me the city, for God's sake, right? So of course, if you were to give me the city, all of you will go free. And guess what happens? The moment they deliver the city, holds them and sends to Salahuddin, I need 100,000 dinars. Right? Some say, no, that was the agreement. I'm not sure, right? And he tells Salahuddin, and of course it is said when Salahuddin saw the Frankish flag on the city, it said all Muslims cried. 3 years. Said Salahuddin was like a mother that lost her son. He was in tears, right? Because 3 years of battle after battle after battle after battle, and then the city fell, right? So he was really, really affected by this. And it was Ibn Shaddad that came to him, the scholar, and told him, Ya Salahuddin, we don't have time for this. I want you to focus on the fate of the people inside, those 3,000 men. And then he told him, by the way, this can be good. 3 years, we could not do anything because they're entrenched. Now that they take the city of Akka, they have to move out to take the other cities, Yafa, right? Maybe then we'll meet them outside and we'll have another battle like Hattin. You get it? Now they have to move. Now we can have a chance. Maybe it's good. Maybe Allah, so focus on that. And Salahuddin sends to Richard. And he said, okay, I'm going to give you the money, but I have one request. How do I guarantee that if I give you the money, you're going to release the prisoners? And he said, you give me the money, then I decide. This started the conversation. And he said, okay, I'm going to give you the money, but and in some said he sent to the religious leaders, telling them, I want your word as the religious leaders in his camp, that if I give him the money, he's going to give me the prisoners. And they said, we cannot give you our word. We can't trust our leaders. Right? Like, we can't even do that. Right? And Salahuddin said, okay, how about you release some and I give you some? You release some and and Richard, if you give me everything, then I decide. And Salahuddin said, it takes a lot of time. Let's negotiate. And then one day he sees the following. Richard opens the gates. All the Muslim prisoners come out. And Salahuddin is like, what's going on a hill? And then he orders the Frankish knights to attack and kill all the Muslim prisoners. And Salahuddin was furious. After all what I've done to you, all, the generosity I've shown, all the chivalry, look at that. Right? Did you see the difference? And this is important to note, right? Similarity is interesting, right? You can read between the lines. Let me put it this way. You guys anyway. Here. Type. So what happened next is again, Salahuddin is furious. And it's a terrible treason. And Ibn Shaddad tells him, okay, pull the army back, let them go out, and we will have another battle. And on the way, and again, this is just to show you the stark comparison between both camps. And this is narrated by Ibn Shaddad. Salahuddin and he's in his army, all these conditions that happen. A Frankish woman comes to Salahuddin's camp running and crying. And Salahuddin stops everybody. Why is she crying? She must want you to notice this. Why is she crying? Right? And he said, she's asking to speak to you. He said, bring her forth. What's wrong? And she says, last night, some Muslims, most apparently Muslim, went to our camp and they stole my young baby child. And I went to our kings and I told them, help me. And they said, we can do nothing to you. We can't help you. But go to Salahuddin. He is a chivalrous man and he will help you. I want you to see, what does that say? And Salahuddin stops the army and says, I probably know what they're probably going to try to sell the baby as a slave or something in the market. Send some of my troops, get the descriptions immediately, and host the woman. And you see the troops of Salahuddin, soldiers going to the marketplace. And it said less than an hour. You see the soldiers coming with a baby on their back. And it said the woman saw the baby. And she started hugging the baby, kissing the baby, pointing to Salahuddin and pointing to the heavens and making dua for Salahuddin. Now, why am I saying this? It shows us he went through treachery, battles, hardship. You see his heart didn't change. You see the compassion, rahmah. He's still fighting, but he can still attend to one woman. This concept of chivalry, this is very prophetic-like. This is, in my view, why Salahuddin was so loved by people. Not only his might and his strength, and as a warrior, he's magnificent, his strategy, his determination in the battlefield, but his leniency, his ability to differentiate between Richard and the like and a woman. His chivalry, I fight you, but not her, right? That was such a concept, it actually, even they said it. Go to Salahuddin, we know, he will help you. What statement that says about the man? When the enemies that do that to him are witnessing to him. That is why I think what the Crusades did to the Franks is much more than a defeat. It showed them something about themselves. This encounter with Muslims, later in Europe, it caused the uprising against the church. Because many of the Franks realized, look, they say they're infidels and it's the opposite. We're the ones that have problems, not the Muslims. Especially when they're scientifically more advanced, morally more advanced, religiously more grounded, more clean, more. It got the hearts of people eventually, right? Salahuddin won the hearts of people. And this is a very important concept, right? Nevertheless, now, and this, by the way, there are many letters and this is a very interesting letter by Qadi al-Fadil to Salahuddin that has a principle. When you read the letters, actually you come to tears. Wallahi, I'm telling you, read the letters of those scholars to Salahuddin, it moves the heart in an amazing way. But one of the concepts that really moved my heart is this. Qadi al-Fadil sent to Salahuddin, and he told him the following. The news that you were victorious in Hattin, when you defeated everybody, right? And then you were not arrogant. When I saw that victory and what you did, you showed hilm and humility, I was so happy that victory did not cause you to be arrogant, did not cause you to transgress, did not use you didn't become not a narcissist, because many people are, right? I saw your humility and I was so happy. The news of defeat, when I see that in a military sense you lost the city of Akka, yet you're still patient, you're still lenient, you're still lenient with your commanders, you're still having good morals, you still have tawakkul on Allah, makes me as happy as the news of your victory. It's not about the military victory and the military defeat. You know what he's saying? Did victory cause you arrogance? It's bad. Did defeat use you to lose hope and give up and show the ugly face? And it's bad. But if defeat shows resilience and determination and again good morals, and it's victory. It is victory. And in both cases, you have a reward with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So the letters of the scholars to Salahuddin, in my view, had a significant role in bringing this, when you need grounded, I think it helped a lot in grounding the heart of Salahuddin Ayubi. Those scholars had a major role, although they're not in the battle. But what they did is something that has to be acknowledged. Now, and we'll stop here this time. Now, the next step. the way to Jerusalem. Now, tables turned around. And now the Franks took the city of Akka. And it's time for them to start heading towards the city of Jerusalem. And Salahuddin realized what's going on. So what we'll see next is the following. Now they have to march. Before they take Jerusalem, they have to take the next stop. Jaffa. I think Jaffa is modern day Tel Aviv, right? I think so, right? Is it? It's not? Jaffa? Where is Tel Aviv? Very close, right? I want to put it so like we know we have some. Anyway, the maps are not perfect, by the way. And I need to adjust them. Anyway, so now Richard starts marching towards the city of Jaffa. And Salahuddin starts preparing for what? Maybe that's what I need. Maybe I can set another battle between me and Richard. Maybe I can lure him like what I did before, right? Surround him and destroy the Franks exactly like what I did in the Battle of Hattin. And maybe the fall of Akka was, grace in the midst of calamity, right? So you can see the way he's thinking, right? And a major battle was about to happen. Richard's target is to eventually take the city of Jaffa and then Jerusalem. And reinforcements are coming daily, hundreds of thousands. And Salahuddin is left alone. Now what will happen next? Will Richard succeed? Will Salahuddin succeed? Will negotiations happen about, just give me Jerusalem and I'll go home? Right? Because that will happen too. They trade off. Just one city. And many people would tell him what? Give it to him, ya akhi, khalas, we'll take it later. You see the compromise? Will Salahuddin compromise? What will happen? That's inshallah what we'll see in our next episode, inshallah. جزاكم الله خير. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.